Good morning, friends. Happy Friday. It's a gorgeous day here in Minnesota. I think we're at around 64, 65 degrees, and it'll be up to 84, which I'm not as thrilled about because I've got some gardening to do and I'm not a fan of sweating. I don't know about you. I think it was okay when I was younger, but and now that I'm older, when I'm sweating, it's like it turns a furnace on. Ugh. Anyway, okay. So we've got some beautiful product to play with today, and I just wanted to share real quick a verse that meant a lot to me this week, and it was about. Let me just bring it up real quick. Sorry, I didn't save it. So it's John 14:27. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid. There's a bunch of verses about peace, but I was at a women's retreat this last weekend, and that's why I ended up not having the ability to have my scrapbooking and scripture this last week. But it was such a great way for me to dig in and just spend more quality time with Jesus, but also helping him get to some of the wounds that I have in my heart that we all do as women. So I'm hoping that you have an opportunity. And if you're in Minnesota and you're interested in a captivating women's retreat, just let me know. It's an amazing book. It really helped me see how I can relate to Jesus as a woman, because I didn't have the best examples with the men in my life. I didn't have a father till I didn't know who he was, didn't meet him until I was 27. I had stepdads that weren't the best quality, men in and out of my family's life, family members. None of them were healthy and safe. So when you're working with your relationship with Jesus or God, you tend to see him as you see the men in your life as a little girl. And I didn't trust. I couldn't trust them because they weren't safe. So captivating opened up my heart to the creator of women. If you think about God as not just this male domineering, exacting revenge, but also the one that created the woman out of his own image. So there's two parts to him. He's male, he's female, he's everything. But I could see him now as somebody that was safe, something that I could reach out to. And it's deepened my relationship. I read Captivating back in 2012, just before I met my husband. I think it really kind of prepared my heart for him. But anyway, on to beautiful product. So hopefully that scripture is helpful to you. Again, it's John 14:27. Just helping me find peace in all the things that we've been through this year. Or the last 12 months. Okay. Annual catalog. I can finally show you the inside. And this is pictures of the beautiful gallery. Isn't that stunning? It's just like, oh, yummy. It's really, really pretty. Beautiful designer series paper. Beautiful examples that you can look through. I've shown you this designer series paper a number of times. And the imagery is just so beautiful. But with the 6x6, sometimes I feel a little challenged. Like, how am I going to apply that to a scrapbook page? But I've got a beautiful page for you today. Hey, Linda. But this suite has two bundles, really beautiful motifs, gallery blooms, and we're going to use a little bit of both. This is the embossing folder. It's the number 5 damask designs, and then we have the number 6, the pressed flower motifs. Not sure if you can see how pretty those are, but just really gorgeous. And then we've got a really pretty ribbon that goes with it. But This suite takes up 6 pages. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, all these examples. Look how gorgeous this stuff is. Now, I showed you how to make some cards last week, and let me just kind of go through them. This was just, I had a bunch of leftovers because I had made like 24, cards. So this was just an example of a fun way to add and make a graphic or a design. So that was really fun. And then this was one of the ones I made on Monday. And I made one of these, which this was my card that I made like 24 of. So I was just showing you how I put it together. And then this is one of those really beautiful motifs. So another one. And then using again some leftovers. And so there's all kinds of things. And then I got a swap from a group here in Minnesota, and these are some of those cards. Isn't that gorgeous? I love the imagery. This one is a fun fold. Let me just open it up. Oh, I guess I should show you all of these because they were so pretty. I'll show them again. But so this is one of those bind openings, and then she had embossed the inside. Talk about pretty. So pretty. And then, oh, I guess I should tell you who made that. That's Betty Weisbridge. And then this one has a real fun fold. So she made the frame, and then she used the inside of the frame to place here. And then, so you can see, it's just a real fun fold here. And this was done by Karen Titus. And then here's another one. Now this front part with this tag is not part of the bundle, nor is this embossing folder, but this DSP and this ribbon are part of it. This is made by Kelly Burkhart. So very pretty card. I love this DSP. It's so pretty. And then here is another one. This stamp set's not part of the suite, but this is a fun fold. So I really don't like that you're leaving, but I hope you love where you're going. I miss you already. Isn't that beautiful? And then this is the embossing folder. Isn't that pretty? So designer series paper, embossing folder. I love how she did this. And this was Kathy Seal. So, oops, there you go. All right. So beautiful gallery suite collection, beautiful motifs, gallery blooms, beautiful gallery DSP. Okay. So this is the annual catalog, May 2025 until the end of April 2026. And let me just put some of these aside. I'm not using the embossing folder today, but I did use it on Monday. So take a look at that video. And if you can't find it on Facebook because they're removing them these days, you can go to my YouTube channel. So, okay. So this just gorgeous paper. I absolutely love it. And when you're looking through the paper, you can find some that have really common colors. And that's what I've done is I've just used a select few. So I need to be careful with this layout because until I get my photos printed, I'm not positive on the photo sizes, but this is just an example. And so you can see I've used a number of different papers from this suite collection to create this really beautiful layout. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a second page. And so you can see how I built it up. So I used a 12 by 12 piece of willow white. And then I used an 8.5 by 11 of the basic beige. And then I used the different 6 by 6 designer series papers. And as you can see, obviously there's not 12-inch papers, but I put them together and they blend really beautifully. This is another one, and I just used a little bit of the fern from the dies, the gallery or the beautiful motifs stamp set, so our bundle, the dies. And then this is watercoloring on watercolor paper, but I'm going to show you how easy it is. So it looks like it's really, really hard, but I'm just using a color and a single color and then making it into almost like a white ranunculus. And so just, it turned out so pretty. I'm so happy with it. But you can see there's a paper here, and then this little cabin, cottage, and then another piece here, and another one here, piece that goes across. So it's a number of different things that I've done, but I just love how this turned out. And it just kind of, this will be when my ranunculus grow and I can actually take pictures of them. Right now they're just like 5 or 6 inches high and there's no blooms yet. So anyway, this is just so, so pretty. Okay. So now let's start with, okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another one so it becomes a 2-page spread. And these are just some colors that I want you to kind of look at. So I've got the coordinating cardstock, which is the, oh my goodness, Mossy Meadow. Okay. And then we've got some basic beige here. We've got the white willow. And then we've got some dyes here that we're going to use. So this is one of the dyes that I used. And this is just the back side of the other part from the little cottage. So if you remember seeing that page, it's one that I didn't. This was the whole sheet. And I used just that little section of it to show the cottage. But this is the back side with kind of a really pretty painted canvas look. Okay, and then I'm going to put a sentiment in this. I'll show you how to do this in a minute. I've got some of the ferns that I've cut out using the fern die from the Beautiful Motifs set. And I love this fern. It's so gorgeous. I'm a fan of ferns anyway, so okay. So you can see that I selected some pages, and this is the other one. Now, granted, this one has some of the Lost Lagoon in it, but it had enough of the Mossy Meadow and some of the other colors that I just thought it was a real beautiful grouping. But on this page, I'm going to use this piece, which is really, really beautiful, which is a repeat of what the other page was. And then this is the back side of this one. And then I'm going to use this as the imagery for the lower part. So this will be the background. And this, I'm just going to take a sliver of this to be a part of it. And this was a part as well. So you can see this is from this page. And then there's this one, which I'm not using, but I'm using this one. This is the one, the piece that will be torn and goes across. Okay. All right. So let's build it up from the very bottom so you can understand my process. I wish I had 12 by 12 of this basic beige. It's on order and it should be here in a couple of days, but of course not in enough time for me to get it here because now every color of cardstock Stampin' Up! Has, they have it in the 12 by 12 two-tone cardstock. And basic beige was not something that was an option to get 12 by 12 before. So I'm super excited about that. And I love the two-tone cardstock because I feel like I've got twice as much cardstock now. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to adhere this, and I'm going to put it about, this is 8.5 by 11. So I need it to be 1/2 inch from each side. And I like tear and tape just because I can peel it away as I need to. And I find that glued kind of does the same thing. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fold over a little bit of the tear and tape so that I have a chance to place it. And then I can pull it down. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just eyeballing it, looking for the same distance on all three sides. This will be the left side, and it'll coordinate with the other page that I have on the other side. And so now I've got this side, and then I can just peel away and it's stuck down. And I just love doing this with the tear and tape because this helps me get it in the right spot, and then I don't have to worry about messing it up. Okay, so now I'm going to need my cutter, because now we need the strip that goes over here, and that is from this one. So let's see. Yeah, I want to do it this way. So I need, this one is going to be 11 inches. So I'm going to cut this in half, so it's 3 inches and 3 inches. And then I'm going to cut just 1 inch off the bottom, because I'll use this scrap as well. So just so you can see, I use the very bottom of this background in green is right here. So I just kind of tucked it in, even though, you know, it's not roses that I'm going to be placing, but it gives you an idea. Okay, so now I'm going to be placing these there. So let's put our tear and tape down. And I'm just going to place it in the middle because, as a reminder, I put these in page protectors, so I don't have to worry about them moving around. Okay, so now I'm placing it so that it's 1/2 inch from the edge, and then I can just, and it's where I want it. So this one will be easier to place. I think I'm going to do it this way. You can hardly tell that it's two different pieces, but I'm also going to have the pieces that go across. Okay, so now I've torn these into like 2-inch strips, like plus or minus, so don't worry about exact. This is the leftover from the other page, and then I'm going to take it almost to the edge over here, and then I need a little bit more, so I'm going to tear again along this top piece. So I'm just using my fingernails. Some people have still, I think Stampin' Up! Had some things that you could use that you could get that teared look without having to do that. Now I just need it so that it's going to match up pretty close. So I'm just kind of watch where I tear. And I'm just kind of following this line because I want it to be about 2 inches. And the thing about tearing is it's not an exact art, so it's no big deal. So I'm going to let this one go all the way over to the left. Actually, what I'll do is I'll trade these because I want this to be about right there. And let's just place my other scrapbook page next to it so that we can make sure that it is lined up. Good thing I did that because I'm way too high. I do need to have this line up so that it's closer to that. There we go. And I'm going to let them overlap just a little bit because these are 6 inches long. And so I just want this one side to line up so that it looks continuous when you're looking at the spread. Okay. I'm not as worried about placement on this one because it's not exact, but I'm just going to make sure that it's pretty close. And then one more piece here. And then we're just going to overlap. It's going to get covered up in the middle with one of my photos. And then I just let it go over to the side. This is probably not as quite as far over as I wanted. It's the only bad thing about the tear and tape is it doesn't forgive once it's down. Okay, it's good enough. All right. Now, like this one, I'm going to have some of those roses here in the middle. And then I'm going to have some imagery and some of the cardstock over here. So let me show you how I did that. Okay. So now getting our cutter out again. These are going to be 3 inches again. So I'm going to cut this in half. So the last one, I had this one on top and this one on the bottom, and then I cut a piece of it off. So I'm just going to probably do something very similar again, just so that it ends up being, it'll start further down, you know, somewhere over here. And then, so I'll just cut this portion off here. And so I'm just going to cut 3 inches off. So then it ends up being 9 inches, thereabouts. And I'm going to use this as one of my little pieces. Okay, so I'll put this in the corner. Make sure that I'm working on, I'm going to put it on the corner of where the basic beige is. And I'm just lining it up. I do like this map too, so I'll probably end up using that for a scrapbook page one of these days. And then just overlap it a little bit so they kind of tie in together. All right, now these pieces need to be 2 inches. So I'm just going to cut off a 2-inch strip. And I need a little bit up here at the top. And then a little bit down here at the bottom. And then I'm going to use a little bit of this imagery here. Put that aside because I don't need it right now. And I'm going to use, I like this tree here, just some of the dark, moody colors. And you can see that they all kind of blend together. So pick like a 2-inch strip. And then you can cut a little bit off if you want, however you want to do it. I'm just going to kind of overlap here. And so this is about, I want to say a little over a 1/4 inch from this edge that I'm placing these. And it's funny how all these different little pieces, somehow they make a really beautiful layout. So we'll continue on with this. Okay, so let's put a little strip of tear and tape on this. And that way I can line it up from the top. So I just want it to be like 1/4 inch, maybe a little bit more over here. And then I can tuck this under a little bit. And then let's put this one down. And I'm going to put a tiny bit of tape over here because I was pulling this up and it wants to stay up. It's so hard to just use one side and cover up the beauty of the other side on this paper because I love it all so much. That's why I ended up buying 3 packages of it. Okay, so about right here, and then both of this one can be tucked in. And it just kind of coordinates a little differently. Yeah, what I intended to do is I intended to put this down further so it wasn't as high. And then just gonna put this here. Thinking about right there. Okay. So now I can start preparing the pieces that I need for my photos. So I will probably have, I mean, it can be any size. It can be 3x3, 4x4, 4x6, but what it is this is going to be a placeholder. And so I'm going to, let's cut 6 1/4. And then 4 1/4. So you can see, and let me just find my little placeholders. You can see that I can have a couple more 4x6, and they can be this way, or they can be the other way. So you can see where the photos are going to go. So who knows? Because I haven't taken these pictures yet. I'm waiting for my ranunculus to grow. I just thought that these blooms with the little dark centers reminded me so much of ranunculus, which have just tons and tons of petals, and they end up just being gorgeous. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how I created these watercolor flowers. So I'm using the Fluid 100 watercolor paper from Stampin' Up, and let's see. So it's just Fluid 100 watercolor paper, and you order it from Stampin' Up, and it comes in a 5x7 pack. And there's, I think, like 10 sheets. They're nice and thick, really nice quality. So I'm going to put this aside so I don't mess it up. Okay, so this is one that I stamped with, the first ones I did were with Mossy Meadow, and I just stamped it off and stamped it off. But then I realized that the basic beige actually shows up kind of on the green side. And so what I did is I used this Gallery Bloom stamp set. So right here. And I just stamped it. And what I need is I need primarily the flowers. And then I'm going to watercolor using, so let me just, so some of these flowers are going to be cut off anyway because I'm going to do multiples. So I have here some ink, but what I do is I'll just squish my stamp pad. Not everybody's a fan of this, so I know that some people are not a fan of using their ink pads this way, but I like to do that. And then I'm using the Mossy Meadow. You can see it's nice and dark because I had re-inked it. Okay, so the water painters aren't available anymore, I understand, but you can use watercolor brushes as well, and you can get them from the craft store. So what I'm going to do is I have a little jar of water here, and I'm just going to place some water here. Make sure you've got like a tissue or a paper towel or something to kind of wipe off your so what I'm going to do is for these little blooms, I just want a little bit more color down here so that the color is just a real gentle, it makes the blooms look like they're white, but it gives it just a little bit more depth if you just add a little bit more color. Now I'm going to darken some areas like the leaves, and right now I'm just going to work on the blooms because I just want a little bit more depth in there. And so anywhere that it's shaded, so if you look at the image, I want to just darken where the petals come together. And so that's kind of what I'm doing here, just adding a little bit more depth. And then this will just be a backdrop of where the center comes together. So can you kind of see how I'm painting just a little bit more color right here? So this is a good example. I haven't done anything. So you can see just adding a little bit more color and then just blending it up. The further you get away from where you place the color, the lighter it gets. So just a little bit around where the petals come together. And then back here, so that it kind of looks like there's some shadow back there on these petals. Okay, so now the rest of them are leaves and stems, but just adding that little bit of color just gives it a little bit more depth. So hopefully you could see that. Okay, so this is using basic beige. Now I'm going to come in with a little bit more color, and I'm going to do the stems and the leaves. So there's no perfect way to do the leaves, and what I find is I'll do like a light color, and then I'll come in again and use some dark. And then you can see that the more you brush, the more it fades. Okay, so just so that you can kind of see what I'm doing in case the video is not. So I'm just doing a little bit, and then it's going to be lighter the more I paint. So normally I wet everything, but this is a little bit different. I want these to kind of blend a little bit more differently. So if I was to make everything wet, then I would end up with my flowers kind of disappearing, and I don't want the flowers to disappear. Okay. But then I want the flower centers, and then I'm just adding a little bit more green in places to kind of give my flowers a little bit more depth. I've got a leaf over here, got another leaf over here. And isn't it amazing how just adding a little bit of the green in places, it just makes the flowers pop. And I've got a little bit more that I need just here. So I'm just going to keep doing that. Work on my stems. Work on the centers of the flowers so they're a little more dark. Add a little bit more color around the edges of the petals. A little bit more on the stem. Got another leaf over here. And then I've got the center of this flower that I want to darken up. And then I'm going to just add a little bit more color to my flowers. And that way you've got a stamped flower that actually just looks like a gorgeous watercolor. So you can see how pretty that turned out. And you can just keep repeating it. But right now I'm going to die cut this out. And so I'm going to use the die cut that goes with it. So I can add this to my layout. I don't want it to move. Isn't that pretty? Oh, it looks like it missed a little bit of my stem, which all I need to do is, no one's going to know. Will they know? No, I don't think so. There we go. Okay, so that just gives you an idea of how I created my scrapbook page. And now we're going to add some of the final elements to it. Okay, so let's take these and put them over. All right. So I want to be able to journal, and I also want to add a really pretty sentiment. So I have a sentiment that is a new part of a new stamp set that's available called You Are Remarkable. And I'm going to use sometimes the simplest means the most. So just as a reminder, this is all about my garden. And I used, just so you know for the title, I used Everyday You and Me for Love Every. Instead of Love Every Moment, I just used Love Every. Okay. And then I used the Sweet Blooms stamp set and dies. And I used Bloom and then die cut out. So I stamped this on willow white or white willow in Mossy Meadow using this stamp right here. And then I used the larger of the two dies to cut out, oh, sorry, here, the word bloom. So this is all about flowers. And so I thought I would add this beautiful sentiment that says, sometimes it's the simplest. Sometimes the simplest means the most. And, you know, I get so much joy from my garden, from everything that's blooming. And right now, my tulips are so gorgeous. And they're these beautiful colors. I'm less about the bright. So this is one of those frames that I showed you on Monday that I had used making a card. This was a center of another one that was done in white that I had used to make another card. So now I'm going to stamp my sentiment in Mossy Meadow. And it's sometimes the simplest things mean the most. So I'm just going to stamp this. And then I'm going to frame it in one of these little extra frames. And then rather than maybe doing such a large photo, I do want a journal. So this is one of those extra frames that I had after doing a bunch of stuff. But I've also was thinking, you know, it just would be really pretty using it to frame something. I'm not really sure, you know, what I'm going to do yet because of the photos I don't have yet. But then I can add these really beautiful flowers and then these ferns. So as you can see, I cut one of these blooms apart, and that's one of them there. And then the other one is here. And then the ferns I cut apart as well. So let me just show you what I mean. So this is one of the ferns. Let me just get some of the, you can easily cut along here to separate that there. And then I can cut here. And then I've got this little piece. And this still looks great and can be used somewhere just to add a little extra foliage. And I can create another one of these flowers and put it wherever I want. But this just, it's fun just doing the layering. Here's one of the little dies that come from the same die set as the fern. So this is the Beautiful Motifs dies. So you can see this right here. So this will just add another dimension or element. And it's just, remember, it's just part of the designer series paper that I cut it out of. So I can easily cut another one if I'd like. I just love how it just adds a little bit of more warmth to my layout with its warm tones. And of course, this was the fern, and I can continue to add more elements. So like this right here, I would just want to cover a little bit of that up. So I could place this here, and then you wouldn't see that there's a line there. You see how it kind of just camouflaged it? And then let me just take a little bit of this stuff out. So now I can just easily add, a little bit. I can cut this apart and add a little bit there, add a little bit over here. Just, it's really easy to do. Let's see. Let's cut this in a different place. Okay, so you can see how I just cut that in a completely different place to create a different look. And I can add a couple of blooms as well. So I love this. It's so pretty. All right, so I'm just going to watercolor another flower real quick so I can add it to this. And you're welcome to watch me if you're watching later on YouTube. Get out some watercolor paper and just kind of, give it a try. You don't know. Watercoloring makes me happy. So do what makes you happy. If you like using blends instead, I think that works as well. Just adding a little bit more dimension so that the little flowers just pop. It's funny how this basic beige has kind of got a green cast to it, and I think it coordinates really beautifully with the mossy meadow. Just adding a little bit more depth to an already stamped image makes you look like a professional. Just don't tell. Somebody else say, I watercolored that. It's amazing how just adding a little bit of the green just makes it pop. It's such a dark, rich color. I need a little bit of water. And when you do this, you'll find that no two flowers look exactly the same, which I think, again, makes it really special. So whether you're doing it for a card or you're doing it for a scrapbook, they just all turn out a little different. I hope you have an amazing weekend. And those that are mothers out there, that you have that little extra hug from either your children or your grandchildren, or if it's your fur baby, I'm hoping they snuggle with you like you want. The thing about fur babies is one of ours, he's very young and playful, and he thinks that all touch is leading to play. So he wants to bite and wrestle. Little stinker. It's only in the middle of the night when I'm sleeping soundly that he wants to get his snuggles. Once in a while, he'll come to my desk here. So you can see how, this just gets a completely different look. So pretty. All right, let me die cut this, and then we can add it, because I'm going to cut it into pieces because I need flowers in different places. We'll get back to this scrapbook page and add some flowers to these areas. Okay. All right, so this one, I want this one to be separated. And so then you just trim so it doesn't look like it's been cut. And I can add this flower here. And now I just need to trim around where I cut it so it's a little softer. And honestly, I don't think you could tell that this has been cut. I think I'm going to trade these. So this is what's called dry placing. Until you kind of get an idea of where you want things, it's best to just place them without adhering. And then I've got another little scrap that had the rose, the botanical name on it. And I'm just going to tuck it down here just because I like the font and the look of it. Isn't that pretty? Should I do another one of these? Thinking I might. Let's see, where did I? There it is. Just grab another one of these pieces because it's so pretty. So it's stuck in there. It doesn't want to come out. Use my pick-a tool. These are a little bit fragile, so you're going to want to be careful. And maybe just a little bit up here. What do you think? I am happy. I think this makes a really beautiful floral layout. Place for you to add pictures. Yes, I'm going to take pictures of my flowers because I don't know that I'll do ranunculus again. I've always wanted perennials or bulbs, stuff that just kind of could sit in the ground and go. And so when I bought the ranunculus, I didn't realize that I had purchased something that is not really made for my time zone, or my weather zone, which means that in the fall, I have to pull up all the corms, and I have a bunch of them. They're really meant for warmer climates. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and pull them up, but I'm not sure that I'll plant them again. I do need, I think, really a greenhouse, and we just don't have the time or money for that right now. We'd have to dig up some of our more grass, and not sure my husband's willing to do that. He kind of started rolling his eyes when I suggested it. So anyway, I hope you have a wonderful Mother's Day or a wonderful weekend with your family and friends, whatever it is that you're having to do, for babies or, just with your nieces and nephews. So have a great weekend. Thanks so much. And if you're watching later on YouTube, this is Angela with Wild Violets Art. Please like and subscribe and share with your friend. Thank you so much.